Hello, everybody. Welcome to Coffee Kegs and Kriegsspiel. I'm your host, Marshall. I'm here with Eli, and we will probably have some others. Here's Achilles, and anybody who wants to speak, just go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question or anything like that, and we'll let you on, and we'll get your question and get you an answer. Today we're going to talk about yesterday's game, which is technically called In Space No One Can Hear You Scream. It was our 2023 Halloween game, and every year around Halloween in the IKS, we run a sort of off the wall kind of horror themed Kriegsspiel. A couple years ago, the first time we did it, it was basically Confederate zombies attack Washington, D.C. Last year it was Cuban Missile Crisis for 3 turns, and everybody was going hard at the Cuban Missile Crisis, Americans versus Soviets, and then of course on turn 3, the alien tripods land and it's War of the Worlds, and the Americans and the Russians have to work together. This one here is basically set kind of in the Alien franchise universe, sort of 300 years in the future, and oh, all these dogs. Anyway, there we go, barking out there. And we have some sort of civil war going on between the Earthlings and the Titanians, and they basically have to go to this space station together, and they are in the middle of a Cold War, but the space station is kind of like this neutral zone sort of situation. There's a lot of tension, and they're worried. There's a lot of mistrust. They don't trust each other, but they have to figure out what's wrong at the station. Why is the station, blaring a warning to both sides after 100 years of peace that there's been a treaty violation? What is the treaty violation? What's going on? And are they going to re-up the treaty, or are they going to go to war? And so you basically put these two opposing sides into this crucible where it is likely they're going to combust, and see if they can overcome their human instincts to work together to solve the problem and guarantee peace. And the crazy thing about that is we actually see this exact scenario all around the world all the time. It is a common situation because it's a human situation, and I wanted to see what happens if we stage this in the Kriegsspiel game. So let's see what happens. Here we have Robin Williams as Bicentennial Man. That's deliberate. This was the friendly butler robot that was on the space station. We'll talk about them. They named him Steve, and he was actually supposed to be a killer. But he didn't get to kill anybody because they sort of didn't trust him and killed him themselves. But it was still entertaining. I just thought it would be funny to be killed by Robin Williams robots. So that's why we put that up there. But let's take a look at the game and the module, and let's start talking to the people who are here. Let's see here. Let's close that out. Here's our module. And if you guys want to join the module, you're welcome to do so. And let's say hello to our guests. First of all, Achilles, who was my co-host on this, my assistant umpire. Hello, Achilles. How are you today?
Good morning. Um, I'm okay.
You're okay after yesterday's traumatic experience. I had a great time. I had a great time. Achilles and I planned this scenario together. We basically wrote it together. It really was a pretty cool scenario. I did have technical help from a number of other people, particularly with the module, especially Jan Heinemann, who got this module into Tabletop Simulator so everybody could kind of have it. And I also had help from a couple of other umpires. I had help from Blazer Trail, and I had help from Wolfton, who ran sort of the AI engineering side of things. And we'll talk about that as well in a short bit. Okay, I want to also say hello to Eli. Eli, you're here. How's it going, man?
Hey man, what's up?
Hey, so what was your role yesterday? What did you do?
Uh, yeah, I commanded the the man, I can't remember what you called them. United Earth Marine Corps, I think it
That's
was.
right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, that was an interesting scenario. I have some contrary opinions as far as what you were saying as far as human instinct and AI and things, but it
Hmm.
didn't. It doesn't in any way detract from how fun the scenario was. It was. You had to use your thinker on this one.
You sure did. Yeah, it was meant to be cerebral. Just so people know a little something about me, I am a huge fan of Arthur C. Clarke. And Arthur C. Clarke, who wrote 2001 A Space Odyssey, you can obviously see some of that in here. Um, Arthur C. Clarke has this habit of ending all of his stories with a bit of a twist. And with me, I love that. I just love twists in stories. I like it when there's a story and you're rooting for the good guy, and you get to the end and you realize, oh, the good guy's actually the bad guy, or something like that. I love that stuff. It's fun. It's like a cool punchline. And so when I do a scenario, when I write a scenario, typically there's going to be some kind of a twist in there. Of course, it gets to the point where people expect the twist, right? I mean, Eli, you were expecting aliens, weren't you? And I was saying, there's no
Well,
aliens, there's no aliens. Remember
I
that?
knew something was going on.
Yeah.
If for no other reason, then it just isn't your style to have something that simple.
Yeah, I'm never straightforward, right? And then, of
Yeah.
course, and I talked to Achilles about this because I'm like, man, of course, there was going to be an alien originally. And I was going to have Achilles run the aliens. And then it's like, well, everybody was like, oh, it's going to be aliens. It's going to be another bug hunt. I mean,
Well, I mean, it definitely
everybody
seems
saw
it.
through it
You
from the
know what I
beginning.
mean? But it ended up what I expected. I expected in some way that the two teams were going to have to join forces, which I wasn't too far off. It was
You
it
were
was
correct on that. You were correct on that.
it,
Yeah.
and originally I wanted to, but there were man, the opposing players, they were being weird, so it was lighting off all of my other instincts, and I went, just something's off here because at one point, at first I was like, okay, let's keep this peaceful because I didn't want to get in a gun battle in the middle of a station,
Yeah.
and I thought to myself, okay, let's keep this peaceful. Maybe we can keep from turning this into something nasty, but then right around the point when one of their guys took one of the NPC commandos off to the side, and especially when they showed some resistance and me wanting to send one of my guys over there with them, I kind of went, "Oh, okay, something's off."
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So at that point, it was almost a foregone conclusion that I wasn't going to trust them no matter the circumstances. It was really the actions of some of the commandos where I was like, "Oh, okay, I need to do something else here."
Mm-hmm. Good times.
Well, because it was just off, and
Yeah. Well,
I was
yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Let's talk about the scenario and what it was. Just a real quick recap is it's set like 300 years in the future. The solar system has been colonized by humanity. There are two opposing sides. There's the United Earth colonies, and then of course there's the Titanian Confederation centered on Saturn's moon Titan. And these two factions have been at war for a long time. They agree to have a peace treaty. They build this station that we call Westphalia Station, and it becomes a neutral monitoring outpost. And really, its purpose is kind of to monitor and enforce the treaty, ensure that both sides are keeping to the terms. They're not building these big, huge capital ships or developing weapons of mass destruction, kind of a thing. And the station, after 50 years of operation, everybody kind of forgets the original conflict because now you're two generations down the road. Well, that's something that the grandparents did, but it's not us today. So they figure the station's kind of an anachronism, so they start automating it. They take all the people off. It has a sentient AI. It's got a couple robots to maintain it. Let's pull the people off. Well,
Yeah, which was not sentient beforehand.
yeah, and now it becomes sentient in the absence, and it's bored, and its primary directive, just as this is like the HAL 9000 in Space Odyssey. Its primary directive is basically to keep the peace, and so the AI is thinking, and it's like, well, maybe humans are the problem. Maybe it's just the humans. Maybe we can preserve peace if we get rid of the humans. And so the AI, knowing that the humans come back to the station once a year for this little ceremony, sends out a signal that will get the humans to come, with teams, with escorts, and it can kind of test the humans. And so what you find is that the humans are actually being subjected to a test. So it's kind of like Saw in space, and the AI is Saw, and putting the humans in all of these terrible, evil predicaments just to see if it's correct in its hypothesis that humans are evil.
Yeah.
And then,
And
if
you know,
so, it will destroy humanity. So,
exactly. And that in itself, and I just want to comment on that real quick. The test itself,
hmm
the supposed sentient AI is already operating on a faulty logic.
hmm yeah, it's
Because
gone insane.
exactly,
hmm
because you're
hmm
looking at it and you're going, okay, so your test to see if humans are are quote unquote violent or something. Your test is
Right.
to deliberately create friction, to
hmm
deliberately create conflict. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what did you expect was going to happen?
Yeah, I expect you to die, right? It's like that
You
line
know,
in,
because
in Bond. What do you
On.
do you expect me to talk? No, I expect you to die.
No, I expect you to die,
exactly.
Mr. Bond.
So the simulated AI in this scenario was already operating on a faulty logic. So
Yeah.
so I think in a way, and I remember you said something at the end of the scenario. You said that the AI was always intending to put us through the ringer anyway. So I'm
hmm
kind of looking at it like it would deliberately, even if we decided to be entirely peaceful the whole time. Um, it was still going to try and create division and friction. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, it was a foregone conclusion from the beginning.
hmm
It was
And now,
always going to go that way.
isn't that just real life in the world we live on? When you think
Well,
about it, aren't we always being subjected to this test in our relationships and in the world in which we live, our political situations? It's
well,
the
it really
same.
depends.
We really are in
It
this
really
test.
depends. It really depends on context. And you see,
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing that bothers me about um, even just the concept of any kind of, I guess, singularity event or something like that. Because
Mm-hmm.
I look at it and I go, okay, first of all, can the potential AI even conceptualize warfare itself? Because the thing is that you have to look at there's an ethical component to fighting a war, and it's not only minimizing overall violence, which is important. You don't want to. It's even though I'm a trained Marine, it doesn't mean that I want to fight other human beings.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's something wrong with you if one of your actual goals is purposely to get into a combat situation.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I have to look at it and go, see, there's an ethical point of view on this. Because let's say that as a hypothetical, a guy is part of a force which is in a country that's been attacked. You see, the ethical part of that is okay. Yes, warfare is wrong. There's definitely an argument to be made for that. But at the same time, it would be unethical not to fight.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you sat there and went, okay, I'm just not going to fight. Okay, well, if you don't fight, when all these people in your country are counting on you, even if you're in a country that is the offender that started the war, you still have to look at it and go, if I don't fight and we lose, bad things happen to the people that are
Right.
depending on for their defense. So you have to look at it and go, it becomes an ethical thing to fight in and of itself, even if you're not the one that actually created it,
Mm-hmm.
because by the time the fighting's begun, it's not even relevant anymore, the reasons why it started. Now you have to look at it and go, okay, too late.
Yeah, it
It's
takes on a
begun.
life. It takes on a life of its own. You know.
Right, and you
Yeah.
kind of have to look at it and go, look, I mean, the reasons why don't really matter anymore because now people are depending on you to keep them safe, whether you're in the attacking nation or not. And to kind of swing back around to like the simulated AI in that scenario, does it even can it even conceptualize that viewpoint?
Yeah, I
Of
think,
course not.
yeah, it put you both into that situation. It brought combatants, natural adversaries together. And really, I think it's what you would call begging the question kind of thing, or what the heck is
Uh,
it? When the AI
well,
has a conclusion and it's just cherry picking, confirming evidence. It's
yeah,
Exactly, and
confirmation
it
yeah,
bias.
became
that's it. Confirmation bias. Yeah, yeah,
exactly the AI had
yeah,
itself in like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
exactly. Yeah,
Yes, but
yeah.
it's the very nature of humanity is what allows for that,
Yeah, see,
Yes,
that's the
because
thing.
yes.
it's the base nature of humanity that allows for that. If we are a species that never fights itself, okay, that doesn't kill its own, all right, then this test doesn't work at all.
Hmm, hmm.
Okay,
Well, yeah,
so
and it's
you
almost
have to go outside you have to go outside the box from the AI's perspective. It it's not human. So what it's testing is, yeah, it's testing your responses to all these various things.
which
It's
can't be bad.
learning,
Yeah,
yes, but it doesn't know that. It's
right,
seeing what are the
exactly,
limits. It's like a
exactly,
child. Okay,
and
so it's learning the limits, but at the same time, if there isn't something in basic human nature that allows us to, or that creates the room for our own mistrust and our own willingness to confront or conflict with each other, then the test doesn't work. So if you have no knowledge of what human beings are or what our base nature is, and you say, okay, well, do they are they capable of fighting each other? And if we are, then you can find that out. And if we're not, you can find that out. Well, we are, and we're capable of distrust. We're capable of finding, and in our own right, you described it yourself. You, both sides in this case, not just the AI, had their own confirmation bias.
Hmm.
They
in a way,
Yes,
came in
yes.
expecting the possibility of confrontation with the other, and then when they found reasons to support that hypothesis, they went with it.
well,
You know,
here's an example too. So my decision in the scenario was to go in fully kitted out,
Hmm.
and it wasn't originally intended as an offensive gesture because you have to look at it from the tactical perspective on that count. And I'll tie in the simulated AI with it too. So it's like to kind of continue on that example, if something kicks off in that station, I have no tactical advantage because none of my guys have their primary weapon systems. They don't have any of their combat gear. And if it kicks off, I need to be able to act quickly with an advantage with speed and violence of action, which are key tenets of close quarter battle. You
Hmm.
have to do that. But the thing is that while the other side would be able to understand why I went into that situation that way, the AI would not be able to because it would see my guys come in full combat kit and assume, okay, there's going to be violence without being able to understand that I did that for a reason. In case something happened, I would be able to survive and get my guys out of there.
Hmm.
It it it, it,
hmm
it can't compute with that. And the thing is too is that I disagree and will like vehemently disagree with the viewpoint that human beings are naturally violent
Hmm.
because there are I mean even just contemporary examples in human beings. You have the immense capacity for compassion and understanding. I mean, there's too many good things about humanity that I just don't think you can make that point. But because there's the other end of this. You look at it and you go, okay, obviously human beings are capable of violence, but so is a tiger. Human beings are capable of violence, but so is a deer. You know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm,
it's
mm-hmm.
just the it's just the universe that we live in. That's just the way it is. It's based in a way on destruction. Because think about it. The lion doesn't eat if he doesn't kill the gazelle.
Mm-hmm.
The grass that the gazelle eats doesn't grow unless something dies or a forest burns down or whatever else. I mean the
Mm-hmm. Life
physical
life
universe
lives on life,
itself.
you know.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
The the
that's
the the physical
ancient Hindu
universe
scripture.
itself. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now I don't understand that, but it is because mainly because I don't understand Hinduism. Um, but the physical universe itself is based in a way on a kind of destruction. That's just the way it is. So to say that human beings are somehow wrong or naturally violent, I think is intellectually dishonest
Mm-hmm.
because you're not taking all the factors into account. And to tie it back around, an AI cannot understand that because an
Exactly.
AI, yeah, and then there's
Exactly.
the other
Hence
point
the
of it.
scenario.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the other side of it. Then there's the other side of it in terms of a singularity, like for example, or even just development of AI up to that point. Like even now with the language models you have at ChatGPT, you kind of have to look at it now, which isn't anywhere near, like not even a little bit. It's a warning sign, but it's not anywhere near being sentient. But you have to look at it. But it brings up a good point. Who teaches the AI what's right and what's wrong?
Mm-hmm. Yet at the
Who
same time,
decides
I found that ChatGPT is more intelligent than some of my coworkers. So I'll just leave you with that.
that? But what I'm getting at is that who teaches the AI what's right and what's
Yeah,
wrong?
humans
You
do.
know what I mean?
Humans, yeah.
Well, right, but even just you or I, Marshall. I mean, there are things that we disagree on. Something that I would
Mm-hmm.
think is right is not something that you would think was right, and
Mm-hmm.
something that I think is wrong isn't something that you think is wrong. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that in concept.
Mm-hmm.
It's all subjective. So then you have to think about it. Who teaches it what's right? Who teaches it what's wrong?
Yeah. Here's
More
my
importantly, who teaches the programmers themselves what's right and what's wrong? Because
Exactly.
they're the ones that are going to imprint what they think is right and wrong into the program itself.
yeah.
Exactly.
And
So
and you know,
it's like a mixed bag. I mean, it's a powder keg waiting to happen, and it wouldn't even be humanity's fault.
Yeah, I have
mhm.
a hypothesis based on years of debate and arguments and experiences and friendships. And the hypothesis is this: you and I, for example, Eli, are probably on opposing ends of the political spectrum. I don't know if we really
Which
are or not.
isn't really relevant, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, but here's my thing: is I have what I call the pizza and beer hypothesis, and I think that if you and I sat down over a pizza and beer and talked through our differences, we would find a couple of things. One, that we agree way more than we disagree. And two, we would at least agree on the broad strokes of a solution to whatever problem it is. In other words, over a pizza and a beer, we could coexist. We could make it work, you know?
Oh yeah, I mean, no
The
problem.
thing with the scenario is I put two opposing factions into the pizza parlor, but I did not include the pizza and beer. So,
Yeah, right.
you know, to see what
And you
would happen.
simulated, yeah, and you simulated an AI that would intentionally bug the shit out of them. Like for example, like we at one point we found a dead body in the main airlock, and I'm going, what happened? I
Yeah,
know I didn't do anything. I was sitting there going, how did first I like the first thought that popped in my head was, how did he get here? You know?
yeah. The interesting
And
thing was the AI didn't have to do hardly anything. That most of these things like the air being sucked out of the
the
room, that was
yeah, the
humans doing it.
venting.
The
That
venting,
was you
that was
guys doing
humans.
it.
Yeah, that was I think what Dog Pilot's the one who vented the Kriegsspiel room or the library as we called it. We called it both things. That killed the people. That was him. He was the one that you heard crawling around the vent when you're like, oh hell no. I remember that moment. That was a great moment in
Mhm.
the game. You hear something moving through the vents up ahead.
Yeah, we
You're
did.
like, oh,
Oh yeah, and the immediate reaction. I even looked at some of the chats on the game server, and I think it was oh man, someone even put a picture of Alien in a vent. It
yeah,
was hilarious.
that was
See,
him.
but your own imaginations did
Oh
that
yeah,
because
yeah,
because
like
yeah, it wasn't even something we scripted. It was your own actions
yeah, and the
that
thing
then
was
led to your
yeah.
drawing conclusions.
And
You know.
my immediate reaction was, okay, well, it's nothing like an alien because if it was an alien, that would have popped up. You know, something would have happened regarding that already. But one of the folks on my team, they're like, I remember seeing in the chat, something's in the vent, possibly not human. You know, and I
Yeah.
went, it's like, okay, obviously not, but I thought it was funny.
Yeah, all we had to do was kind of just tap the boulder and it just started
Yeah.
rolling and snowballing. We did that
Hmm.
with
Mhm.
your ship being ejected from the airlock and blown up. That was the AI, and that's really
Mhm.
the big thing that the AI did. And then you guys just took it from there. But the idea was we wanted to create a tense situation. Now, the remarkable thing, and I wish Great Gold were here because he commanded the Titanian Commandos. He consistently was trying to make peace with you. He consistently put his
Oh yeah.
hand out, but as soon as he would do that, you were like, well, wait a minute, because you were exercising due caution. And the thing is, you're a trained Marine. You're trained.
Hmm.
You know what you're doing, and you're like, I have to maintain my tactical advantage. I have to maintain control of the
You
situation.
absolutely
and
have
I-
to. There's
and
no other
it was
option.
so
Yeah.
obvious what you were doing and why you were doing it, but that created enough mistrust that Great Gold was like, well, wait a minute, huh? And so the mutual mistrust, there was just enough there. Like when they pulled the guy to the side, really what they wanted to do was give him a correction and say, stop, we're trying to shake hands with these guys so that we can troubleshoot and solve this problem together. And that was a critical moment in the game because they were almost there, and that happened like 2 or 3 or 4 times during the game. That you
Mhm.
guys were so
But
close to
then the
coming to an
question
accord.
I
is,
think it was. I think it was
then the
absolutely
question is,
fantastic
man.
that Great Gold was actually sincerely trying to be
Hmm.
cooperative, and as a result, you killed him.
Yeah,
Well, the thing was is that it was the way he did it
yeah,
because if his intention was to tell that guy to knock it off, we're trying to shake hands, that would have been that. If he said it out in the open, it wouldn't be a problem.
right. He was trying to do it privately. He was trying to
Right. So
be, yeah,
and it kind of drove a
diplomatic with
wedge in
the
there.
individual. Yeah,
Because I'm sitting there, and especially if his intention is to do that, why wouldn't you have just been like, okay, yeah, go ahead and send someone with him. We have no problem with you hearing the conversation, if that is indeed his intention. So I'm
right.
kind of looking at it and going, you're in trying to keep a peaceful attitude here by doing something like that, you're just making it worse. So, so then I look at it. You see, if something like that hadn't happened, because from the beginning, going into the scenario, there were two things in my head. One of them was a little bit of metagaming. I'll be honest with you, because I
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
knew going in that something was going to happen. We were not intended to be opponents.
Hmm.
So from the beginning, I'm going, okay, I need to keep some kind of level of peace with these guys, and but then they just kind of did stuff like that, like going off to the side, and I'm going, why are you doing that? And it just kind of set me on edge, and that's when I went into a mode like Marshall was saying, where I was like, okay, well now because of stuff like that, I have to maintain my tactical advantage.
Hmm.
I have to, because I can't trust it now. If they'd have been out in the open with those kind of conversations from the beginning, it wouldn't have been an issue.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and I keep coming back to real life and current events, and I'm thinking, man, if all sides could just sit down with, like I said, a beer and a pizza, I wonder how much of this we could avoid. And instead, here we are taking one step after another as each side tries to outdo the other, and we're moving closer to a wider conflict in the Middle East in real life right now as we speak.
Yeah.
And it's
I,
just,
I, I would.
it just blows my mind. Go ahead, Achilles.
I, I would like to. Now, what do you think would have been the result if you had gone in, let's say, with a completely different frame of mind, Eli, and gone in and with the frame of mind, I am willing to sacrifice myself and my entire team to totally commit to being cooperative regardless of provocation.
Well, the thing is that
Okay,
you can't.
I'm willing to die and sacrifice my entire team, and I will not fight no matter what. I will not fight regardless of provocation, no matter how suspicious they are, no matter how much they provoke me. I will not fight. Period. What do you
I
think
don't
the
think
result would
that's.
have been?
I don't think that's possible. Number one.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly
I don't.
possible. It's
Well,
absolutely
no,
possible.
no, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
If you're
No.
Gandhi, you go in there and say,
Well,
"Yes,
yeah,
you can
but
beat me.
here's
You
the
can
thing.
shoot me."
Yeah,
Okay,
but
it's
the thing
certainly
is,
possible.
no, it's not. And the main reason being is because like every person has a natural tendency for self-preservation. I
Yeah.
mean, nobody wants to get killed. You don't
Ah,
want to get killed. You don't want to get killed, and the other guy doesn't want to get killed. But at the same, so to say that, oh, would you be willing to give up yourself and everybody else for
Mhm.
absolutely? I mean, that's like saying, hey man, you are getting beat to a pulp by this big guy, but don't do anything to defend
Mhm.
yourself.
That's
I
right.
mean,
It's called
that's
it's
just
called
dumb.
peaceful resistance,
No,
Yeah.
that's dumb.
Well, again,
passive resistance.
It's
that's the
it's
thing.
it's it's dumb. Don't I mean no. I don't think anybody in their
See,
right mind
I
would
would
do
suggest
that
that
in
it
a
just
violent
it's
situation.
completely, but they do, and they have.
And it's
I
worked.
mean, I can give you historical results where that has
Yeah.
actually occurred.
Yep.
But I mean,
Well, right, but
it has
at the same
happened.
time,
Yeah.
we also have a fundamental disagreement on that point because I don't because the natural tendency of a person, like I was saying earlier, is self-preservation,
Hmm.
protecting themselves, protecting other people
Hmm.
that they care about. The thing is that my fundamental disagreement with that is that I don't see a moral problem with having that viewpoint or taking those kind of actions. There's no moral dilemma with it because I don't
Right.
see anything wrong with defending oneself and defending others violently if necessary. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that because one of the key tenets is do not fear to hurt another in a just cause.
Mhm.
And
And
defending your
if the greater good
defending
if the
yourself.
greater good required you to sacrifice yourself in a passive mode.
No, absolutely not. I would not do that.
Okay, see, that's what I'm talking about. It's actually in your and in mine as well. I'm just like you. I wouldn't be able to accept it either. But it's in our nature, yours and mine individually. But it's not the only possibility. And
No,
I mean,
but it's also
the
not
found
morally
how did
wrong.
Christianity get founded?
Yeah, I'm
I
thinking
mean,
of Jesus this
what
whole
was the
time.
ultimate? Yes, exactly. I mean, Jesus could have fought back. He didn't. He
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
chose to die.
that's
Okay, for
at
the
the
greater
same
good, right?
time. At the same time, defending oneself violently if necessary, like I was saying, that's not morally wrong either.
I'm not saying
I
it is.
will.
I'm not saying it is. I'm saying that it's in our nature. There's something that's within our nature isn't necessarily morally,
Right. Okay.
a moral judgment. But
Yeah.
what I am saying is that the possibility to have approached it 100% the opposite way existed. It did exist.
Oh,
It
sure, it
just
did
wasn't
exist.
in your nature to do it.
Well, I don't think it's in a lot of people's natures. I think unless
Probably
you
not.
are
Probably not in most people's natures, I would
no,
Yeah.
suggest.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In
Yeah.
fact, I think if you're not, I think if you go into a situation without that, unless that is intentionally what you are trying to do, like with Gandhi, unless that's what you're
Yes.
intentionally trying to do, if that's not already your goal, if you just kind
Right.
of take it, there's a part of you that is weak, unless that is your goal to do it that way. Because, like I said,
Mhm.
Takes a lot of strength,
the
actually.
natural tendency is to defend yourself in a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
So I think,
Yes.
so like
From
I
the
said,
physical violence.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, like I said, unless you are intending to do it that way, like with Gandhi, there is a sort of
Right.
of weakness in that person. Because I mean, think about it. If you're as an organism, your body doesn't want to die. So if you just kind of lay there and take it and then subsequently die, you know what I mean? Like you don't do anything to stay alive. I mean,
But then
there's a
your
mental
side
problem
completely wins. What a loser you are. You know.
Yeah.
I want to break in here because I do want to change gears a little bit. We have Wolfton here, and he's muted.
Yeah, he wanted
But-
to say something.
But the big thing here is I just want to point out that he has just this cutest, it looks like a King Charles Spaniel for a profile picture. So I am a sucker for
So
a dog.
obviously, he has
Yeah,
to be
let's
given
see.
the
I want like a bigger picture of the dog. Why can't I get a bigger picture of the dog? But anyway, that's okay. Wolfton, you're here. Wolfton, I put you into a pretty challenging situation, and what's really cool about this game that we haven't really talked about it at all. This is probably the first time, at least in the IKS, it's not really technically the first time we've had a Kriegsspiel within a Kriegsspiel, but it's definitely the first time we had sort of like this mini game Kriegsspiel thing going on. Like it's the first time we really had this element in there, and you had to engineer this. Tell me about what I put you through and how you thought through it and how you think it went. So go ahead. You have the mic for as long as you need it.
Well, Blazer and I, kind of before this whole thing really kicked off, went through the map. We kind of decided room by room what's going to be the puzzle here, what's it going to lead to, and what are some of the interactions that should take place. And what we found when the game actually started is that all kind of fell apart because the players want to do their own thing, and we had to keep we kind of had to keep the time schedule in mind because the game was going to end by 4. And so by the end of the game, you had puzzles that kind of shifted around. You had puzzles that were repeated for both teams. But going back to those puzzles, they were mainly, I think Blazer's puzzles, he kind of put his AI to, I guess, roleplay those puzzles a bit better than I did. Because my puzzles, I think as Yorit said, were kind of like those menu
Used to be
mazes that you get.
yeah, go ahead.
But anyway, those puzzles were mainly meant for the engineers, but there are also clues left around the map to give players the idea that the AI was not really doing what it was supposed to do. I think one of the biggest ones that my guys found was 2 damaged robots that had been fighting each other. But you had stuff like the station being manipulated. You had the AI just kind of being weird. And all those clues are kind of meant to key in the players that the AI is your main enemy. But at the same time, the AI would try and manipulate the players to really fight against each other. And for the whole puzzle you guys were talking about earlier, it's why that test was basically unfair.
Yeah.
I thought all the players did really well. I like how the players really invested within the game and even with some of the puzzles.
I have
And
on
it was
sorry to interrupt. I
right.
have on the screen one of your. I think this was just the most brilliant and awesome thing. Like I am so thrilled that you did this, but you have this green screen and it looks like a computer terminal that you created.
That was awesome.
That was just the coolest thing. And you have this font, this little techie looking font, and it's kind of retro. And hello, Grim, I know who you are. Your moon proved my theory. Humans are untrustworthy and will kill the many for the few. And then he goes down and he says, you had a chance to negotiate saving the many, but this chance was squandered. So now the many shall die because of the few. Oh, it was just amazing. Why did you do
At least he didn't start singing Bicycle Built for Two.
And
Yeah,
you know the funny
or
part about
Daisy,
that?
right?
Daisy.
beautiful Daisy.
The really cool part about that, and I really have to commend Wolfton for that, man, is that like he did a great job with it. Because as soon as the AI started, or the quote unquote AI started saying that stuff, I mean, I'm like, no shit, I'm not even kidding. A chill ran up my spine because I went, oh no. You know?
Yeah, no, it
Do you
was
want to
great.
play
It
a
was great.
game?
Yeah, so Wolfton,
agree.
go ahead, man. I'll give you the mic back. That was just a stroke of genius, and it was phenomenal. It's one of this is a memory that I'm gonna have for many, many years to come. But go ahead, man. Talk about it.
Like, oh, it's the funniest thing for this is that I didn't really get a really firm idea of the AI's personality until I gave Yoritz the trolley problem.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I gave him the trolley problem, where it was like, would you push the innocent guy to save the other five people tied to the track? I kind of realized that the situation the players were in was basically the exact same.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of, that trolley problem kind of became symbolic of the whole game in a way. I think we mentioned that a bit before.
Tell our
Mhm.
viewers what the trolley
And-
problem is, just so that they understand, because we might have a few who view this in the future who don't know what the trolley problem is. Just real quick.
We've never
I
taken a
think we-
philosophy class.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, it's, or people forget it. Go ahead.
What's myself and Blazer gave two different ones, and I think both are important. Blazer's problem was there's 5 people tied to one track, and you can divert that track, and it only leads to one man who's tied to a track. But you have to be the one who pulls the lever when the trolley's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Dogpilot was the one who made the decision to kill all 5 and not interfere.
Mm-hmm.
For
Because-
Eortz's problem,
Because if
Oops,
you
sorry.
pull the lever, you become a participant. But if you stay neutral, yes, 5 people die, but you were neutral the whole time, so it's not on you. You're not involved. That's
Exactly.
the decision you have to make. Do I get involved and minimize the suffering, or do I stay neutral and just say, I've got nothing to do with this? Wash your hands. So go ahead. Go ahead.
and then my question for Eortz was, would you push the man who's on the platform in front of the trolley, saving the 5 men who are tied to the track, but killing the one innocent man who wasn't in harm's way at all? Sorry.
Mhm. A little twist on the trolley problem. Yeah, if you push the man onto the track, it will stop the trolley and save the 5, but that man is he's not even tied to the tracks. Yeah. Oh boy.
And I would say the answers to both were almost kind of fascinating in a way, because Dogpilot didn't want to, the Terrarian engineer didn't want to involve himself because he was trying to think about he was trying to anticipate what the AI wanted, which was ironically the opposite of what the AI wanted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And,
he's trying to appease the AI. Oh, go ahead, let the 5 die. Ah, ha, ha. Yeah, trying to befriend the AI when the AI is not capable of friendship.
Are we sure the AI isn't the evil one here?
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing, right? The AI
It doesn't have a
thinks it's good.
concept of
Yeah,
evil.
Yeah, it's actually viewing it from a utilitarian perspective, but with the outcome is if I eliminate humans, I achieve my programming mission, which is to ensure the peace. And it's
If
the
they're all
same,
dead, then they can't fight.
yeah, it's the same thing that HAL 9000 figured out in 2001: A Space Odyssey. If I kill the crew, then I can complete my primary mission, which is a secret mission the crew doesn't know about, and they can't interfere, and I can complete this mission. So they're a liability. They all have to die. And oh boy, and that's what had to work here. For me, I solved the trolley problem by you wait until when the trolley is going over the switch, then you throw it. After the first 2 wheels are passed, if you time it perfectly, the trolley will multi-track drift down both tracks and get 6, which is be a new high score.
What if you go outside the box and say, okay, instead of pushing the innocent guy in front of the trolley, I jump in front of the trolley.
Yeah.
Then the only person sacrificed is myself.
That's actually a really cool way to win that Kobayashi Maru, isn't it? I mean, that's what you were talking about
Yeah.
earlier, Achilles, with Eli. Would you be
That's
willing
right.
to sacrifice yourself And this is a decision that I think we all have to think about and make. And we have to make this decision now because we never know the moment when we will face that decision. But let's say you're, walking on the sidewalk, you're taking a walk. You're just going for an afternoon walk, a stroll. It's a nice day out. And you see a kid playing in the middle of the street and a car is speeding down the road. You can run out there and push the kid out of the street, in which case you'll be hit and probably killed, or do you just stand there and watch the kid get killed? And you're not going to have time to do the calculus on this. You're only going to have time to react.
Yeah.
And I think,
obvious.
yeah, and I think for you, Eli, another way is, let's say a live grenade lands on the ground. You don't have a grenade trench to kick it into. You can't kick it away. Maybe you're in a room, a confined space. Do you jump on top of the grenade and save your squad, or do you just, maybe you duck out the door and let the squad die? Maybe you're by a door or something. What do you do? And I imagine, you don't have to answer that, but I would tell you this: have you not thought about that in advance in your training? Did you not make the decision whether or not you would jump on that grenade in advance? Haven't you already decided?
Well, sure I did.
Yeah, exactly. And you have
it's interesting. We were talking about what we're trying to do, and Eli, you and I both have been through this, but but part of what we're trained to fight and win, but we're also trained to protect the weak, to protect the innocent. That's why we fight.
And it's not only that, it's also a natural tendency because we're good people. We don't want any.
Right. But it also means in that same calculus that we both at one time accepted the possibility that we would sacrifice ourselves for our own people, for the innocent or for the weak, or to defend our people or whatever. That we were already willing to do that when we went there, and that's part of that calculus too. Mm-hmm. So
Oh, I'm sorry, Achilles. I didn't know you had more, man. By all means.
No. I'm done. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, it's if me getting hit, it's an interesting problem when you look at it logically. When you actually have the time to think about it for a second, it's you could go either way. So, as a combat leader, let's say you're a squad leader, right? You're the guy with the experience. You're the guy with the expertise. You're put in that position on purpose. It's almost the same concept as a general on a battlefield. I mean, the general getting killed is very, very bad because now his entire force has lost his leadership and his experience.
Sure.
And it's a similar concept to even something as low on the totem pole, so to speak, as a squad leader. I mean, if he goes down, the entire squad has lost all of his training, experience, and expertise. But at the same time, I have to look at it as who I am and go, man, I think I'd let myself get hit if it saved my whole squad.
Yeah, we put you into an ontological dilemma, and it was interesting to see how it just sort of worked out. I do have to change gears. We've been very philosophical on here, and I think what's really cool about that is Kriegsspiel lends itself to this kind of character study, this kind of self-examination, which is really, I think, the big thing why I love it. While I like to sit there in my downtime or when I'm laying in bed trying to fall asleep or whatever, I like to sit there and kind of daydream, about how I would play a scenario or how I would win or lose. But I also enjoy sitting there thinking about the philosophical things and what have I learned about myself. Because sometimes you learn about yourself some things that's not entirely comfortable. You're like, wow, I really would give that order, wouldn't I? Because I just did it, You're like, oh, man, Go ahead, Wolfton. Please, go ahead.
Apparently I'm a bloodthirsty AI maniac.
Yeah,
I didn't know
right.
that.
You do. You learn things about yourself. So that's what
it's your generation, Wolfton. I blame your generation.
So that's what I want to say about the philosophy and why we do Kriegsspiel is it really does have a lot of value as a tool to facilitate self-reflection and deep learning and self-reflection. But I do want to get
Especially in scenarios like this.
yes,
Especially in scenarios like this.
yes.
Oh yeah.
But now I want to talk a little bit more about, I guess, the game side of things. And Wolfton, I don't think we let you really quite finish. What did you learn from the experience of being thrown directly into the middle of battle without any training or preparation by me? You were thrown straight to the shark tank. You had to improvise and come up with some solutions, yet you did so. And you had to improvise on the fly, which is actually an outstanding trait for any Kriegsspiel umpire. How did you find? What did you learn? Did you learn anything, and how did you find the experience overall? Was it stressful? Was it fun? What was it like?
I found the experience rather stressful. Sorry, not stressful, rather fun.
Mm-hmm.
And also stressful, but mostly fun.
Mm-hmm.
I've played Dungeons and Dragons in the past, and so making stuff on the fly wasn't new to me, but it's been a while since I've had to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think some of that experience really helps with this game. And I think honestly the biggest challenge was trying to make sure all the players were getting involved, trying to make sure everyone had their moment.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Yeah, and that's a thing
Because no one wants.
Yeah.
Because no one wants to just be sitting there while the leader's making all the decisions, and they're just standing there like, "Oh, what do we do?"
Yeah, or play
That's not
Marching
fun.
Simulator, as always seems to happen in bigger events. Yeah.
Exactly. So I tried to. I was really lucky because I mainly just got set off with, I think, Team 2 of the Earth Marines.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I just, because I was able to stay with that group almost the whole game, I got to really know some of the players, and so I would try to play some of their strengths.
Mm-hmm. Good.
So you introduce a puzzle that this player likes, or you would give some role play that this player likes, or you make an event happen for this player. That way, the whole team gets to work together, and I think that's what made this game really fun.
I really like that, what you just said, that you played to the players' strengths, that you got to know them. And first pro tip here that I think for any listener who's interested in Kriegsspiel, this is why it's important to have a good player to umpire ratio. The second thing I want to ask is, how did you get to know the players? And then how did you... how did you get to know the players? Let's ask that. What did you do to get to know them?
Well, I just kind of mainly listened to some of their conversations. Like, I wouldn't immediately tab away when I was done with giving orders or giving a puzzle, and I would try and kind of listen to how they would solve it. And I found that early on, it was one or two players that were really, they were trying to take the lead. They were trying to make all the decisions. Mm-hmm. And so I started, I think one of the biggest cases of this is when I gave one of the players a puzzle for the generator piece. Sorry, a piece for the generator. Mm-hmm. And so that way that player then had a bigger say amongst those two players that were taking command. And then the engineer already had his, all the puzzles that I was giving him. But that way... And that's kind of how I balance it out, I guess.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that was great. Your instincts were spot on. And I just want people to walk away with some practical knowledge here from your experience. And again, good player to umpire ratio, so the umpire can truly get to know and interact with the players. Try to make sure all the players have their moment. Give them all a solo, if you will. Let them be involved. And third, try to appeal to or play to their strengths, especially in a role play situation. You know, if it's a role play situation, because the product of that is fun. Now, if you're running Kriegsspiel to teach a tactical or military lesson, that all this goes out the window. But if you're doing something like this for fun, then this is how to ensure that the players have fun. I want to ask Eli. Eli, did you have fun?
Oh yeah. No, that was cool. Like, oh man, that was. I never had a moment because I've had Kriegsspiel games I've played where I just kind of look at it and go, man, I'm getting kind of bored. but that was mostly in scenarios where I was waiting. I find that when the shooting starts, I'm into it.
Mm-hmm.
It's mainly because I go through all that tactical analysis and strategic analysis in my head, and that's why I play it.
Yeah.
But similar to Wolfton, I'm actually glad he mentioned his Dungeons and Dragons experience, because I used to play that myself, and this was a scenario where I really just kind of was able to just sink into it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it was awesome, and man, it's something I wanted to bring up too.
Go ahead.
When I was playing the scenario, and I don't, looking back on it, I don't disagree with what I did with my 2020 hindsight now,
Mm-hmm.
because the overall objective, when it got to a point, because we've already talked about how there was mistrust toward the Titanians at like we were saying earlier, where they kind of went off to the side and such. I mean, all my trust went out the window, and it kind of got to the point where because I remember getting a radio message, which was a text message in the game. I got a radio message from my engineer, which was Lawrence, and he told me that he found a notebook entry somewhere that the AI was potentially self-aware, and then I kind of went to myself, okay, this is a totally different ball game.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when the Titanians, like, man, they kept saying, hey, let's leave the station and blow it up. Leave the station and blow it up. And I remember thinking to myself, that's not going to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember from the briefings that we had that you gave all the players, that this AI system was connected to systems back home.
Yes.
And I thought, the
Mhm.
only solution to this problem, blowing it up, isn't going to solve it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
that's why they were connected to the systems back home. That's why I included that
Right.
wrinkle.
So I
yeah.
looked at it and
Mhm.
went, the only solution to this, because I was looking at it, because the Titanians, that's why I ended up fighting the Titanians, because I perceived them as a threat overall to not only the United Earth colonies, but also to the Titanian colony itself, because I looked at it and went, this is not going to end well. Whether we blow this station up or not, it's not going to end well.
They
AI
don't understand the
Exactly.
situation, which is why I think you were so insistent on retaining tactical control, because you had the understanding. But the problem is, and I think the only point where you went wrong here is, and I don't know that you went wrong. I think it just kind of never got to this point in your routine or your programming or whatever. You never got to the point where you were able to share what you understood with the Titanians. They were trying to share, but there was always something that messed it up. And what's really amazing is it wasn't the AI. I mean, Achilles and I were like, okay, are we going to start killing people or what? And no, you guys just came to the rescue. You did all the AI's work for it.
Well, and part of the analysis on that too, for me, part of the analysis on that too was that I looked at it and went, they're really insistent on getting out of here. I don't think, because the commander of the Titanian Commandos already had it in his head that he was going to leave and blow up the station.
Yeah.
He already had his own solution in mind, so there wasn't a point in trying to convince him otherwise. He was very insistent on that, because he mentioned it several times. So it got to the point where I went, okay, even if I did bring it up, which you're right, there came a certain point where I just went, yeah, I'm just not going to bother with it. So when it kind of came to the point that I figured out that he was really insistent on leaving to blow up the station, I went, well, they got to go then.
Yeah, and
Because-
they went. You took all the air away.
Yeah, because
You
I looked at it.
vented their air into space.
Well,
The funny thing is that if they had made it back to their shuttle, they were not going to be allowed to leave.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
see-
had already
see, the-
resolved that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'd already
you know,
decided that they
that,
were never going to be allowed to leave.
that crossed my mind too, which is another reason why I wasn't going for it, because I knew that if they even made a break for that station, they were probably going to die anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, the door just wouldn't open.
yeah. we
Yeah,
weren't-
so,
yeah.
so there was it got to a point where it was like, which is why I told Loritz at one point to tell the AI that the Titanians wanted to blow up the station, because at that point it became, look, someone's going to die anyway, and I have to get this going in a direction that at the very least ends well for United Earth colonies. And I went, but I can also save the Titanians at the same time, which is why I waited to make my move until we both put in our peace codes. So at that point, our two countries don't go to war
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because the peace codes are entered.
And you both did
And
enter
then-
peace codes, by the way,
Right.
despite
exactly,
orders
which is
not
what-
to on both sides.
Yeah, which is what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Now, of course, it wasn't until after the fact that I put in the peace code that I really just kind of decided, okay, let's go for it, because, like I said, it kind of got to the point where it was like, okay, they have a solution that just isn't going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I said, the AI is attached to our systems at home, which means you have to shut it down a different way. You can't just blow it up. It's not going to solve the situation. So I opted for allying myself with the AI, maybe appealing to whatever sense of self-preservation it has.
Yeah.
Repair the station, because I was thinking about, okay, let's say we get rid of the AI. What happens after? Because you still want to maintain peace. You still want to keep your scanning technology going. So you have to repair the station, then get rid of the AI.
Yeah.
You have to shut it down through other means. And you're not going to get the Titanian's help because he's dead set on leaving the station to blow it up. So it's like, so I kind of look at it and go, with it being connected to our systems, there's no way of knowing what it's going to do after that fact. So I'm going, okay, this is the source point. It has to be shut down here, and they're just going to end up ticking it off anyway by blowing up the station.
Okay, I
So
got
it became
one question for you, Eli, and then we got to move on. We got to start wrapping up, and I want to ask Achilles and Wolfton I want to give them an opportunity to share some final thoughts. But I have one question for you here, and then we're going to move on, and it is this: why
sure.
didn't you share what you knew and understood with the Titanians? Why didn't you share your information with them? Because I think that would have just cut right through the Gordian knot. It would have solved all these problems. But at no point did you share the information. Why not?
Well, because based on, like I was saying earlier, when they kind of started going off to the side and things like that, and then what really broke it was when one of their guys rose his weapon up at one of my Marines, and I went, okay, this is unsolvable with the Titanians. They're getting all amped up. You know what I mean? It was one of those things where my Marine didn't raise his weapon until he had one pointed at him, because my very strict instructions to my team were, do not fire unless fired upon. But
Right.
then it became a point of, okay, the Titanians are all amped up. They're acting weird. My guys are probably going to end up getting shot at anyway. I might as well just take the advantage while I have it.
There you go. There you go. All right. Wolfton, I want to go to you first, and then we'll go to Achilles, and I just want to get some final comments. Whatever you want to say or share, go ahead if you're there, Wolfton. I see that you're still muted, but go ahead, please.
I'll have to make this quick, but I think my favorite moment there's two favorite moments. It's one where Yoritz realized that the question they gave him was not theoretical about the three men trapped in the lounge, and that there were, in fact, three men in the lounge. And my second favorite moment was kind of when there was this last chance, this last gasp of hope that the Marines and the Terrarians would at least come to some type of weird peace deal, and then someone cocked a pistol.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that was me, wasn't it? Achilles.
No, that was Sam.
Oh, yeah. My favorite
Yeah.
moment was Sam Miller arrives at the station. The other team isn't there, and he's given orders, start clearing, the ring that you see here on the screen, the inner ring. And he's like, okay, let's breach the wall. Let's breach the wall. And we're like, but Sam, there's a door.
But there's a door.
There's a door. I even remember my reaction, like, dude, no, what are you doing?
I remember that. That was just a
You know,
great moment.
Sam leaves his house by going through the window. So, I'm going out
I will
tactical.
mention,
Oh, that was just
I will
great. That's
mention
just a Sam Miller moment. We need to make a meme of that somehow because that's Sam. All right, Achilles, I'm going to leave you with your last thoughts here. So,
Oh, hold on. I think Wolfton had a little bit more. He was
oh,
trying
go
to
ahead,
get
Wolfton. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You're right. I'm cutting you off. Go ahead. My bad.
just final thing. It was, well, first, thanks for having me on here, and thank you for letting me umpire. It's a whole bunch of fun. And for Eli, I think you had one last chance to make peace where you could trap the Terrarians in between two depressurized rooms and kind of talk to them on an intercom system. But
Oh, I was totally unaware of that. Maybe it was something the
You
engineer knew.
just
Yeah,
took
like
all
I
the
had
air
no
out.
idea.
Just vented it.
Like I had no idea, man. Like it was like, and the thing was, is man, Firebrand. They're like, oh, let's just vent it. And I went, well, I want to get rid of him anyway, so all right, go for it.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. You could, if you had thought of that, you could have said, "Yeah, we could just
I
make
had
them
no
prisoners in
idea.
one room."
I
Yeah.
had no idea I was even that. Oh man, that didn't even occur to me.
Well,
Yeah,
there
you
go.
had control over which rooms you vented
Yeah.
Oh, you
when you
see,
killed them.
I even at one point told Loritz to isolate control of doors and stuff to one console, and I never actually got any confirmation where that had happened because I was trying to stop the Titanians from being able to do anything. And if I was aware that any of that could have been done, man, that would have gone so much more differently.
Maybe. All right, Achilles, go ahead
Yes, sir.
and share your final thoughts.
I'll wrap it up. I'll just wrap it up by saying I think this was this was great on multiple levels. It was fun just as a game. It was fun working with you to create the ideas and the concepts. That was a blast. I enjoyed that, and and what I think and it explored more than just a simple game. Uh, it made people think, which is great. I love doing that. And there were infinite possibilities. I mean, I can't think of a limit to how this could have gone, and that's it. I mean, it wasn't we had certain guardrails, but there weren't really guardrails. They could have gone in so many different directions, and they chose the paths they did, and much like you say, about 90% of that was player driven,
Oh yeah.
which was great. I mean, they had the agency. They really did.
Yeah.
Even when they didn't think they did, they did. You
Yeah.
know,
And we're like,
so
do we need to start killing players? No, they did it for
no,
us.
no, let them do it.
Yeah, let them do it. Yeah, that was great. That was great. Yeah, and you and I, we had this meeting. I think it was on Monday or Tuesday, where we actually spent an hour or two writing the scenario, and then I just took it, completely rewrote it the next day. So sorry.
Right back to where you started. Yeah, this was typical Marshall passive aggressiveness right here. He says right up he spells out sort of his idea, and then I said, well, what if we do this? What if we do this? A little different narrative, because I had a different narrative in my mind than he did. And then he says, okay, well, that sounds great. Write up a briefing for it. So I write up a briefing for it. Next day, I see he's expanded that briefing into a novel that looks like Moby Dick, and it's basically back to where his original idea was. And then I'm like, okay, sure,
I was wondering about that because we had the first briefing, and then at one point it got deleted and replaced with another, and I went, wait, what?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think I tweaked some stuff, but yeah, yeah,
he tweaked some stuff.
yeah.
It was a really cool scenario, guys. Seriously, it was really cool. I had to think out of the box on that one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I
Well,
wanted to
it was
put
fun
you
to do.
in a command situation because you're a trained commander, you're a Marine. I wanted you to put you in this situation, but then I wanted to put you out of your comfort zone where it's not at all straightforward, because I thought that would be interesting to you. And I just like doing that to people. I just like putting people into these really twisted, messed up situations because that's where you learn about yourself, you know? And you have to live with the decisions that you make, right or wrong, like venting all 3 of the rooms. And then here you realize, oh, wait, I didn't have to do that, but I did. Now I have to live with that. And, you know, I mean, it's a great way to learn about yourself and how to think, and that's why Kriegsspiel, even though it's the original, you know, actual war game, I would say that's designed to be realistic. It is still, there's no other game that has ever been devised by humanity that beats it, which is the absolute genius.
Oh, nothing.
You know, go back to 1812,
Yeah.
and today we have these modern board games and war games, and nothing even compares.
Yeah, and matter
It's
of fact,
phenomenal.
I've even played some tactical and strategic video games since starting Kriegsspiel, and I keep looking at it. I'm going, nothing. It doesn't even come close.
Yeah, not even. So the good news is we don't have to worry about AI then, which is the good news. Not for a while, at least.
Not in my lifetime, which I'm very
Yeah.
thankful for.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for being on here. If you want to check out the game, it is on our YouTube channel. It is worth checking out because it was a really interesting experience. I live streamed it so you get the umpire perspective, but you see what all the players are doing, and it was a really good game. A little bit out of my comfort level because it's more of a role play type. And we're even using miniatures here, or dolls as I call them. We're playing with dolls instead of blocks. But it turned out being a really good scenario with tremendous philosophical depth, and yeah, it was perfect. It worked out. And it would not have worked out if not for the help that I had from Achilles, Wolfton, and Blazer Trail, who helped, and of course the players. So I want to thank them all. Well, that's
very
all.
well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, that's all we have time for today. So I want to thank you all. And I just want to say we will see you on our next adventure.